Arrived here between the years 1892 and 1954. That tour begins in this room. A second tour is for the exhibition Journeys, The Peopling of America, in which you will learn about immigration and the settling of the United States before Ellis Island opened. The third tour is for the exhibition Journeys, New Eras of Immigration, about immigrants who arrived after 1945 and who continue to arrive today. To hear details about all three tours, you can press 999 and the green play button on your audio player. Is a non-profit partner of the National Park Service, whose mission is the restoration and preservation of the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island.
Lively now. Keep moving, folks. Welcome to Ellis Island.
Imagine you have just arrived on a steamship. You sailed on a third-class ticket or a steerage ticket. Only third-class and steerage passengers had to stop at Ellis Island. If you'd been able to afford a first or second-class ticket, you would have been examined on board your ship and then allowed into New York City. But instead, you were put on a ferry to Ellis Island, and you are now subject to inspection and examination here on Ellis Island. So let's continue your tour and begin your inspection. The year is 1907, or maybe 1914, or maybe 1921. You have just stepped off the ferry outside.
Check your bags here in the middle of the room. Don't worry, they'll be safe. Check your bags here.
You've just spent 10 crowded, smelly days packed with hundreds of other immigrants in the bowels of a steamship. You're exhausted, you're anxious, and you're hungry. And now, a uniformed official orders you to deposit your most valuable possessions, your personal treasures from home, and leave them behind in the center of this, the baggage room. All you can do is hold on to the claim ticket he gives you. That's how you can collect your things once you have completed immigration inspection. Immigrants carried suitcases, baskets, boxes, sacks, even bed sheets with their belongings wrapped up inside. What they carry are pieces of home. Here's what a few of your fellow travelers brought with them.
We didn't have much of a baggage, just some pieces of clothing and my books.
I remember a pair of shoes that she put in there that were my father's army shoes.
Golden earrings because I've had pierced ears since I've been a child.
Alpaca wool blankets that were beautiful.
Beautiful pots
And pans.
Sets of mint and china that were priceless.
Now you're being hurried along, funneled to the second floor. And with an anxious backward glance at your pile of belongings, you head up the stairs to begin the official inspection in the registry room. Look for the open staircase with a sign above it, the registry room. Go up the stairs and into the registry room. You'll see a metal stand with a blue sign and the number 111. That is the next stop. Remember, all of the stops on this tour will have a blue sign and a 3-digit number. If you prefer to take an congratulations, you've climbed the stairs to the registry room, or Great Hall. Look at the size of it. As you climbed the stairs, doctors were watching, on the alert for people who are limping, out of breath or coughing, or who seem dazed and confused. Those people might get a letter marked in chalk on their coats. Your inspection has already begun. Thousands of immigrants flowed up the stairs to this room every day, 7 days a week. Lawrence Meinwald, who came from Poland, remembers it vividly.
Was it crowded? Was it crowded? Well, that's putting it mildly. It wasn't crowded. It was impossible. There were waves and waves of people coming in here every day, every minute.
So what next? Everyone around you whispers rumors about what to expect, but no one with you knows for sure. You join a long line snaking through the room. You probably don't speak or understand English, or most of the other languages people are speaking. Family and friends who came here before you may have told you what to expect, but you wait nervously, because you know there is a chance you could be sent back to your home country. The medical examinations that started as you climbed the stairs continue here, including doctors using button hooks to examine everyone's eyes, looking for the disease trachoma.
Please move along now. Have a seat on a bench at the other end of the registry room till it's your turn.
The official points to the benches. You should do as he asks and move over to the benches at the other end of the hall. The darker benches are original. You can literally sit where a scared but hopeful immigrant sat over 100 years ago. Near the benches on the left, you'll see a number on a pillar. Have a seat if you can find some space. Then enter that number to hear more about the registry room. Don't get too comfortable. The inspector might call you up at any moment. But take a minute to look around at this great hall with its high arched ceiling overhead. Have you ever been in a room this large? Probably not. And the building, it looks like a palace. You are impressed, you are in awe, and you and your fellow immigrants are a bit overwhelmed.
There was fright, there was uncertainty.
Crowds of people crying, and I was tired, mentally tired.
And the noise and the languages, absolutely incomprehensible. That scared me more than anything else.
Officials bark orders at you in English, and a babble of languages surround you. German, Italian, Polish, Russian, Yiddish, and so many others.
Stay in your line. Stay in line.
Inspectors sit at the tall desks at the end of the hall. When it is your turn, you nervously approach a desk. The questions come quickly, but not harshly, in your language through an interpreter. Are your answers correct? You hope an official will explain as you make your way through the inspection process. Your tour continues in the exhibit through America's Gate, which takes you step by step through the immigrant experience on Ellis Island. Look for the sign above the double doors on the left side of this room. Go through the glass doors, then turn left into a room labeled Arrival. There's a stop in that room near what looks like a telephone. But first, if you'd like to hear about what happened to the registry room after Ellis Island closed and before it was restored to its present glory, press play. This great hall epitomized the United States. Grand and inviting, yet confusing and bureaucratic. The registry room has been restored to the way it looked between 1918 and 1924. One of its finest features is the arched ceiling made of almost 29,000 Guastavino tiles, named after their inventor, Rafael Guastavino from Spain, himself an immigrant to America. After Ellis Island closed in 1954, it rapidly fell into ruin. Stephen Briganti is president of the Statue of Liberty Ellis Island Foundation, and he remembers how it looked on his first visit to the Great Hall in the early 1980s.
A mess. There were trees growing in the Great Hall. One of the chandeliers had just crashed and broken into smithereens. The place had been stripped of anything valuable, copper, anything that anybody thought they could sell. The government really didn't want Ellis Island, particularly after it closed in 1954.
Briganti and the foundation have raised almost $800 million to restore and preserve Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty in partnership with the National Park Service. The money has come from over 20 million donations, both large and small, and fundraising continues today. Now,
Number 513, the arrival display room. 4.5 minutes. When you pass through the double glass doors to the Through America's Gate exhibit, you are facing a set of 3 hallways that create a U shape. 10 display rooms are located along the left side of the hallways and are accessed by interior doors.
We arrived in New York on a beautiful dawn, and we could see Ellis Island, the place we were hoping to get, and it looked beautiful.
That's Stephen Peters from Albania, a voice from the past recorded as part of the Ellis Island Oral History Project, preserving the memories of immigrants who passed through Ellis Island. They are compelling, dramatic first-person accounts. A 5-minute collage of voices begins to play when you pick up a handset, and there are handsets in many rooms on your tour. If you prefer, you can listen to the voices using your audio player instead of a phone by entering the number you see near the phone handset and then pressing the green play button. Okay, so you've arrived on Ellis Island, left your bags in the baggage room, and your inspection began as you climbed the stairs to the registry room and continues in the next room. Look for the blue signs.
We came in 3rd class, and I remember it was all the way down in the ocean, and they had these great big round windows, and all you could see is the waves, passing by. Finally, this one morning, my mother, she must have been on deck, and she was coming real fast, and she got a hold of me, and she's pulling me up the steps, and with her left hand, she's pointing, Mary, Mary, marcho, marcho, tu America, tu America. And I'm looking, and that sight, as long as I live, I'll never forget.
We arrived in New York on a beautiful dawn. It was a magnificent sight. Awesome sight. The harbor was just replete with boats, come from all over Europe. And we could see Ellis Island, the place we were hoping to get. The lawns, I could see the lawns today were green and manicured perfectly, and it looked beautiful.
When you come to America, you should have come to a small little place. But no, boat stopped right in front of the most impressive site in the United States, the downtown New York.
We got here on the morning of 4th of July. And they took all the 1st and 2nd class passengers. We had to wait because they didn't work on Ellis Island on the 4th of July.
Please step up to the doctor. You are nervous about this inspection by the doctor. What if he sees something wrong? It's true you are exhausted from your voyage, and you were seasick, so you didn't eat much. What if he puts a chalk mark on your coat and pulls you out of the line? This anxiety is what Rose Breesy, who emigrated from Sicily, remembers.
Everybody's nervous when you go through their doctor. You know what I mean? Because it's a fear that you don't know what they could find. And it was fear.
Like the woman in the large photograph, a doctor would examine your eyes using a button hook. There's one in a nearby display case. Men and women used button hooks to fasten shoes, gloves, or boots. So how did doctors use them? Eleanor Lenhart came from England when she was only 7 years old and remembers the button hook's role in her medical inspection.
Oh, I was petrified. There were 2 women doctors standing at the door with sticks in their hands, and they grabbed you and rolled your eyelids up, looking for this infectious disease of some kind.
That's right. They used it to roll up your eyelid and look for signs of trachoma, a highly contagious eye disease that caused blindness. If you had trachoma, you would be denied entrance to this country. And what about the chalk marks you saw on some people's clothing? Around the corner from the button hook is a large display with a code system that doctors used. A B meant a possible back problem. A P stood for pulmonary disease. An X meant possible mental illness, and so on. Chalk marks could truly inspire fear. But you have passed the medical exam, as most immigrants did, and you are one step closer to leaving Ellis Island to begin your new life. In fact, only about 2% of immigrants were sent back to their home countries. 2 in every 100 may not sound like many, but imagine if one was your mother, or your brother, or your grandparent. Now, move into the next room for your legal inspection.
Next, step up to the desk, please.
An official points at you. You walk up to a desk and the inspector starts firing questions. You feel nervous, and you probably look nervous. What are the right answers? Park Ranger Andrea Boney says you shouldn't worry. The actual questions are pretty straightforward.
They were actually the questions that were listed down on the manifest sheet that was given to the inspectors from the boat company. What's your name? How old are you? Are you married? Where did you come from? Where were you going? What's your occupation?
See for yourself. There's a blow-up of a manifest sheet or passenger list from a steamship company on the opposite side of this display, next to a photo of inspectors at work. Another question inspectors asked, do you have any money? Elizabeth Longfield arrived from Yugoslavia as a girl and remembers that her father and his 2 buddies didn't have enough money individually, but they were able to trick the inspectors.
You were supposed to have, I think, $20, and the 3 of them had $20 together. And so they always stood in line, and they would show the $20 and put it in their back pocket, and the next guy took it, showed it, and he'd put it in his back pocket, and the third guy would have it.
But what if the inspector thought your answers did not match up with the manifest? Then you might end up in a hearing room where a panel of immigration officials would decide if you could enter the country. What happens there? That's the next stop. And this is not actually true. To hear an explanation, press play. Okay, who's next? What would you like? See anything on the menu you'd like? It's in multiple languages, but maybe there's nothing in your language. Ah, coffee. You understand that. And candy. Seems like everyone understands those 2 words. 80% of immigrants passed inspection in the registry room and were ready to leave the island and continue on to their final destination in 4 or 5 hours. But if you were hungry, you could buy food at a concession stand before you left. If you had to stay overnight, you received free food in a dining hall. Ernest Becker arrived from Germany and remembers the food concession.
They had a place there you could buy food. It was really good. It cost $1. When you got a big bag full, and there were cold cuts in it, and rolls, French bread in it, all kinds of food. It was good because you didn't get anything anywhere else. I still had some of that when I got to Boston.
Vartun Hartunian arrived from Turkey as a boy and vividly remembers trying a new food.
I had my first taste of a ham sandwich, which I loved. I'd never tasted anything so good as a boiled ham sandwich.
Okay, your appetite is satisfied. What else do you need? Probably American money, and maybe a railroad ticket. Step into the next room with a display of money. Are you headed to New York's Lower East Side? Or maybe Chicago? Whatever your destination, you need money. American money. The large photos in this display show people waiting in line to change money. The money exchange was on the first floor. British pounds, Italian lira, French francs, Polish zlotys. You can exchange anything for US dollars so that when you leave the island, you can buy what you need. Exchange rates were posted daily on a blackboard above the teller window. Maybe you would try to save 1 coin as a memento of the old country. The monies on display here come from many countries. Okay, so you've got American dollars. If you are headed anywhere besides New York City, you need to buy a railroad ticket. Move into the next room to hear more. If your journey after Ellis Island takes you beyond New York City, you need a train ticket. So you stand in line to buy a ticket like the people in the large photo. Then you can check the train schedules and trace your path on the U.S. map. About 2/3 of immigrants who arrived at Ellis Island did not stay in New York. But maybe you've never been on a train, or you don't speak English. How will you navigate the trip? Not to worry, as Renee Burkhoff from Hungary found out.
They called me out and they put the ticket on me with my name and my sister's name and address, and they said to let me off in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Staff on Ellis Island pin your train ticket to your coat or hat, like the woman in the large photo here. So no matter how confused or disoriented you become, train conductors can read the ticket and know what train you should be on, or where you should change trains. For 80% of immigrants, it was at this point that they departed Ellis Island, just a few hours after arriving, ready to begin their new lives in America. But imagine you are part of the 20% who were detained for a legal reason, or a medical concern, or for additional testing. Back in the registry room, when you were inspected by the doctors, did one draw an X in chalk on your coat? Like the men in the large photo? The X means that doctors have a concern about your mental health. Maybe you looked bewildered and wide-eyed, or maybe you were crying from exhaustion. Whatever it was, something caught their eye, but they couldn't be sure. So here you are, in a room filled with puzzles to test your intelligence and mental agility. Most people pass with no problem. Victoria Fernandez did. She came from Greece and remembers being tested when she was just 4 years old.
They brought me up to a room, a classroom. I remember the classroom very well. It was a typical schoolroom with little desks where you have an elementary school. They put a pegboard before me with little different shapes and little holes on the pegboard. That was the intelligence test they gave me. I had to put them in place, the round ones and the square ones and all that, and I did it perfectly.
Using tests like these, and the visual comparison tests on the opposite side of this display, doctors can assess your mental ability even if you don't speak English. Also on the opposite side, you will see a photo of a man wearing a uniform and administering a test. That is Dr. Howard A. Knox. He developed ways of assessing people regardless of their native language. You can try one of his tests. There's a large display of drawings, and at the top you will see a row of 8 faces. The question is, how many are happy faces? Dr. Knox said that it was normal to answer in less than 20 seconds. I'll give you a few seconds now. Did you arrive at Ellis Island with a fever? Or maybe you fell and broke your foot getting off the ferry, or you got off the steamship ready to give birth. If so, you'll be admitted to the Ellis Island Hospital. There, doctors and nurses treat immigrants who have to stay on the island for any medical reason. Like the girl being examined in the photo, or the children in the large photo with their heads bandaged because they have a skin disease. Your hospital stay might be short, or perhaps not. It was a long stay for Bessie Akawi, who was 11 when she arrived from Russia. Doctors found she had a scalp disease.
They kept me in Ellis Island for 8 months because of my scalp. It just wouldn't heal. And it was a long, big ward with a lot of beds, maybe 20 beds. Every bed was occupied by mostly children.
Imagine spending 8 months in the hospital away from your family and home. Fortunately, Bessie recovered and she and her family entered the country. While in the hospital, she even made a friend.
I was befriended by a nurse, Miss Hannah. She was a nurse that I can dream about. She'd always bring me a present. and she taught me English. By the time I got to New York, I knew how to speak.
The Ellis Island Hospital Complex took up almost 2/3 of Ellis Island and had over 700 beds. A small blue map on a low platform here shows the layout of the hospital in 1913. You seem to be in good health, both mentally and physically, but maybe you need assistance of another kind, immigrant aid help. You'll find information about them 2 rooms away. Perhaps you are being detained on Ellis Island for health or legal reasons. You would be distressed and fearful. But even if you have passed inspection and are cleared to enter the U.S., you will have many questions about what comes next. Who can you turn to for help? The answer is immigrant aid societies. About 40 religious and social welfare organizations operated on Ellis Island to help immigrants, and there's a long list of them on display here. Immigration historian Alan Kraut.
Every ethnic group had an office on Ellis Island. The St. Raphael Society served the Italians, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society served Eastern European Jews, Polish Catholic Union taking care of Polish immigrants. They had offices on Ellis Island. They had workers there every single day. And the job of the aid organizations was basically to assist newcomers to the United States who were in need of assistance.
Some help was simple kindness, like that provided by the woman serving donuts in the photograph at left. But maybe you've arrived without a winter coat. To your right and up high, a sign reads, Social Service Clothing Room. The Salvation Army and the Red Cross stocked a room with warm clothes. Inga Naski arrived from Germany in 1922, and she had lost her coat. An aid worker brought her to the room.
And I tried on coat after coat after coat, and she pulled out a long green wool coat, and it reached down to my heels. Sleeves covered my hands completely, and I almost started to cry when I saw myself. And she said, I'm sorry, but it's warm, that's the main thing. You won't freeze to death.
Aid workers were especially helpful to single women, who were generally not allowed to enter the country without family or work waiting for them. Several organizations helped women connect with relatives or find a job so they wouldn't wind up destitute or fall into prostitution. Photos on the opposite side of this display show that organizations served children in many ways. You can't help but notice the huge photo of the Christmas party. In another photo, young women sit around a table doing needlework. Aid workers on Ellis tried to keep detained immigrants entertained and happy. But even with support, being detained was a difficult and anxious time. You'll hear why in the next room. Hence are detainees, like Herman from Argentina.
We didn't know why we were there. We didn't know how long we were going to be there.
Or Norman from Czechoslovakia.
What bothered us, how many more days do we have to be here? How many more days? That worried us.
For medical or legal reasons, about 20% of immigrants to Ellis Island were detained for days, weeks, or even months. Those detained for legal reasons or waiting for hospitalized family members slept in dormitory bunks. They spent their days idly passing the time in day rooms or outside. Look out the window here, and you can see the main dormitory building. Move past the fence to see rows of detention cards, each with an immigrant's name. Be glad yours isn't on it. Detention could be especially trying for children, as the photo of 2 bored-looking girls sitting on a bench shows. Inga Naski from Germany remembers being detained here as a child.
I was bored. I was so bored, and I just walked up to the kids. Some of them talked in Russian, some in Hungarian, some in Italian, all kinds of nations. But, somehow we got together and we chased one another, and one of them had a ball. And so this is something it kept us from really going crazy with all that waiting.
A nearby photo shows something else detainees did to keep busy: write letters. In this 1903 photo, detained children and adults sit around a table and write letters to their families. Maybe they are describing the food on Ellis Island. That's next. Anything good about being detained on Ellis Island? Some detainees say maybe the food. You receive free meals in a dining hall. Take a look at the place setting on display. Pretty fancy. On the dish, you can see the special Ellis Island design. Vartun Hartunian from Turkey remembers meals in the dining hall.
The dining room was generally set very beautifully. I'd never seen a dining room like that. There would be dishes and forks and knives and white napkin. But when the people went in, it was like chaos. There was no order. They would grab the butter, and if you didn't get there early enough, there was no butter left on the table.
Do you have a special diet? The kitchen caters to special needs, including having a kosher kitchen for observant Jews. To the left, you can see a couple of menus. Go around the display, and you'll see a big gray metal container. Can you guess what it holds? Look down at the photo with a little boy holding a glass. It's a milk pail. Many detainees ate certain foods for the first time here. Things we might take for granted today, like bananas and oatmeal. These three people remember eating here as children.
They came, they gave us a banana. I never saw a banana in my life before. Poland had no bananas.
I saw almonds and walnuts and everything else. Never saw a banana in Europe. I took the whole banana with the peel and put it in my mouth.
We got oatmeal for breakfast. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't get myself to eat it, so I put it on the windowsill and let the birds eat it.
The next room has a name that describes what Ellis Island was for people arriving here. An Isle of Hope and an Isle of Tears. Ellis Island could be an Isle of Hope for many. There's hope on the face of the man in the photo carrying 2 suitcases. He's leaving Ellis Island to start his new life in America. But it could also be a place of tears. The opposite side of the photo shows men whose hopes have been dashed, denied entry to the country. That only happened to 2% of all immigrants who entered through Ellis Island. But over the years, that 2% represented 250,000 people. If you were refused entry to the United States, immigration officials required the steamship company that brought you to return you to your port of departure. Evelyn Golbe arrived from Russia in 1914, and medical inspectors noticed a suspicious growth on her grandmother's fingernail. For Evelyn, Ellis Island became an Isle of Tears.
They sent her back. Nobody knew enough to fight it. They were all stupid. And those that processed letting people off the boat, they were stupid. To let an old woman, when she has the whole family here, to let her go home by herself. So we never saw her again. But that was heartbreaking. I'm still crying over it.
Before we leave this room, you're probably wondering about the graffiti along the wall. Graffiti was found on walls throughout Ellis Island. Most of it was the work of immigrants detained on Ellis Island, according to park rangers Peter Wong and Andrea Boney.
The graffiti was written by immigrants who had to stay here overnight because their legal inspection did not go well.
You're obviously very frustrated. You want to get off the island. You want to start your new life in this country.
They were writing their emotions about being so close to the United States, yet being so far away.
And now it's time to head back into the registry room. Turn left, go down the hallway and through the glass doors. Then turn right, and you'll see an audio tour number on a pillar near a stairway leading down. That's your next stop. You have reached the end of the inspection process, and you are now at the top of the stairs that lead out of the registry room on to the next chapter in your life. But beware, this is called the stairs of separation, and which stairway you are directed to is very important. If you have passed inspection and you're heading into New York City, an official will direct you down the left stairway. And if you're heading somewhere else in the U.S., and need to buy a train ticket, an official will direct you down the right stairway to the ticket office. If you have relatives already living in the United States, they might be at the bottom of the stairs to meet you. Birgitta Fichter from Sweden was met by her father.
I can see my father coming through that door, and I darn near tumbled down the stairs, I guess, to get to him, and my mother behind me, and we were so glad to see him.
Lillian Galetta also remembers being met by her father. She was 4 years old and arrived from Sicily with her mom and sisters.
My father came to meet us at Ellis Island,
And he squatted on his knees with his arms outstretched. And the 5 of us ran into his arms. And he said, "We're all together now. We'll never be apart again."
But what if you were sent down the center stairway? As you've probably guessed, that was not good news. You were being detained. From the bottom of the stairs, immigration inspectors, or perhaps a nurse, would accompany you to one of the hospitals or dormitories on the island. But remember, most people did not go down the center stairs, and those who were detained were usually not held for long. At your final stop inside the registry room, you will see where some of the detained people went. Standing with your back to the stairs of separation, walk to your right toward the first big window. Look for a stop number on the wall. For many immigrants, like those in the large video to your left, citizenship is the ultimate goal. The video captures the pivotal moment when they proudly take the oath of allegiance and become citizens of the United States of America. You can read the oath on the panel to the right of the video screen. But what does it mean to be a citizen? What do you have to know, and how do you become a citizen? And why do some immigrants choose not to become citizens? This gallery answers those questions. Do you think you could pass a citizenship test? Find out by going to either of the 2 round booths on the left side of the gallery. Inside, follow the directions on the video screen, and you can take a 10-question test. The test emphasizes fundamental concepts of democracy and the rights and responsibilities of citizenship. Good luck. On your way to the booths, you will notice a display with 6 video portraits called Ties to the Past. Each is a story of a person investigating his or her own immigrant past. After your test and the videos, there are 2 more audio stops in this gallery, but feel free to explore the rest of the exhibits.
And to do so, they must pass a test that covers American history, civics, and geography. The test is a rite of passage to ensure that all new citizens understand what it means to be a United States citizen. Do you have what it takes to pass the test? All applicants must submit the following documents with their N-400 application for U.S. naturalization: a photocopy of both sides of your permanent resident card, 2 identical color photographs with your name and aid number written lightly in pencil on the back of each, a check or money order for the application fee and fingerprinting fee. If you are applying for naturalization on the basis of marriage to a U.S. citizen, include the following items: evidence that your spouse has been a citizen for the last 3 years, your current marriage certificate, proof of termination of all prior marriages, documents showing you and your spouse's married lives together, such as mortgage papers or tax returns. We've received your application for citizenship and are reviewing it now. Your application has been approved. You've met the 5-year residency requirement, submitted all the paperwork, had your interview, shown proficiency in speaking and writing English, and paid all the necessary fees. You're finally ready to take the civics portion of the naturalization test. I will ask you a series of 10 multiple choice questions to see how well you know United States history and government. Each question has 4 possible answers. Just press the button for the answer you believe is correct. After you've answered all 10 questions, I will calculate your score and tell you the results. Good luck. First question: how many amendments does the Constitution have? 1, 27, 2, 18, 3, 101. 4, 10. President and the Vice President can no longer serve. Who becomes president? 1, the House Minority Leader. 2, the public must re-elect a president. 3, the Speaker of the House. 4, the Chief of Staff. Next question. Who was president during World War I? 1, Woodrow Wilson. 2, Ronald Reagan. 3, John F. Kennedy Jr. 4, Franklin Roosevelt. Next question. What U.S. war was fought between the North and the South? 1, the Civil War. 2, the Korean War. 3, the Revolutionary War. 4, the War of the Roses. Next question. In what month do we vote for president? 1, September. 2, January. 3, November. 4, August. Next question. The House of Representatives has how many voting members? 1, 435. 2, 50. 3, 100. 4, 355. Next question. The Federalist Papers supported the passage of the U.S. Constitution. Name one of the writers. 1, John Hancock. 2, James Madison. 3, Thomas Jefferson. 4, George Wythe. Next question. How many U.S. senators are there? 1, 27. 2, 100. 3, 50. 4, 13. Next question. When do we celebrate Independence Day? 1, January 1st. 2, April 15th. 3, July 4th. 4, August 6th. Last question. What major event happened on September 11th, 2001 in the United States? 1, the Summer Olympic Games. 2, the Waco Siege. 3, the Oklahoma City bombing occurred. 4, terrorists attacked the United States. You passed the citizenship test. The United States is a democratic nation that depends on its citizens being well informed of their rights and responsibilities. And today you've shown a deep knowledge of U.S. history and government. Great job.